Hey gang, we'll hear from the Ashland Fly Shop with a fishing report for you for April 23rd. Okay, here's the deal. Settle in, get what you need. This is going to be a forecast, report, expectations. We're going to cover a lot of stuff in here. We're in kind of pre-season trout time and wrapping up winter steelhead, so we're going to cover a lot of stuff. So just be prepared. It's coming at you. Thank you, and away we go. All right, so we'll kick off with the Rogue, as we often do. The Rogue, wrapping up winter steelhead. We had some good fishing towards the end. We really did, for the few folks that could get out and do some fishing. Well, more on that in a second. But yeah, and I would say kind of down lower in the Grants Pass area, which I typically recommend as a good spot to fish, steelhead was good. And I think that was a combination of things about that. I think lack of pressure really helped catch rates. Low water conditions kind of forced the fish to move really slowly up the river, as that always is the case with that kind of setup, a low water year. So we had later fish. People were not quite expecting them to be there, and there were some fish around. Even in the upper river, we didn't hear too much about the upper river and kind of the section that we fish a lot because all the boat ramps are closed. So we didn't have a lot of people fishing except for some walk-in here and there. But a few folks that did get out with pontoon boats and stuff, more commando fishing, did find a few fish here and there. So I think it wrapped up pretty well. So hopefully you got out and got into some of that. We are now transitioning through that winter steelhead stuff into our trout salmon fly season. Maybe a last note on winter steelhead would be, if you really are trying to get your fix there, up around the hatchery is going to be kind of the last gasp there. I think you can still kind of get in there and fish a little bit on foot. And I would imagine there's still some fish up there actually. And feel pretty okay about fishing up there for hatchery fish. If it was a whole wild scenario, I would say let's leave those fish alone for now. But with the bulk of hatchery fish up there, I think it's a pretty decent bet. And I've seen that go quite a ways. I've seen that go even into May, that steelhead fishing up there. So might be worth considering if you really need to get your fix. So back to the transition into trout fishing. So trout is actually closed now on the Rogue itself, which is from the spillway at the hatchery down. It's actually closed until May 22nd, 22nd or 23rd. And that coincides almost perfectly with the salmon fly hatch. Typically we'll start seeing those bugs down around Shady Cove, and even a little bit lower right about that time or a little bit earlier. So we'll be watching for that. I do not know what to expect for the salmon fly hatch this year as far as availability to drift the river, and that is by far the most productive way to fish that salmon fly hatch in that upper stretch. We typically have all of our guides working every day. We typically have a lot of activity up there. I don't know what to expect this year. I'm giving it like another couple weeks from now, from April 23rd, right into the first part of May to really make a call there. So keep in touch with us. Happy to talk to you about what to expect up there, if they're gonna lift the the closures up there, and we'll able to get our boats on the river. But this time I really don't know. So we're watching that, but that stretch from the hatchery down to Shady Cove is the most productive for salmon fly. So whether you're walking in commando style or you're able to drag a raft in or somewhere, that is going to be the place to be from the time the opener from the time of the opener through around the first week of June. And then that sort of follows along with the Holy Water, that little trout stretch below Lost Creek Dam that we talk about, and that can start to fire up. Now that's open all year, so you can fish that now, and that's a very good bet right now. That holy water stretch is going to come on. We've got, you know, a little bit of changing temperature up there, so we will see bugs start to come off a little bit up there. Now it's definitely a little bit later from the time we see them around Shady Cove, but those fish start to get on those bugs a little bit early, and sometimes we can really see some good fishing early before there's a lot of pressure up there, and we can typically see some good fishing late. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. I will say, if you scroll through or search through our blog or our YouTube videos and our blog posts under salmon flies, we have done several salmon fly overviews in the past, and those are good to watch to get a sense of how to approach this hatch if you haven't fished it before. There's some information in there that's pretty valuable, so I would you know, continue on watching through some of that stuff to get your head around what to expect, because it's coming up soon and it's a lot of fun. So just to recap quickly, holy water is open. It will be open through this time. A good place to trout fish, a good place to kind of practice and get ready for the salmon fly hatch. 23rd of May, Upper River opens for trout fishing, and it can be very good. So, so let's all be ready for that on the road. Stillwater fishing and lakes are really where you want to be right now, I would say. Yeah, it's a good time to be poking around. Some are going to come on earlier than later. You know, I always talk about kind of our high mountain lakes up here. Now they're very, very low because we've had very little precipitation in the later part of this season. But that can mean some pretty good fishing. Now it's probably not going to last very long in places like Hyatt Lake or Howard Prairie or any of those lakes, but it can be quite good for a brief time. So if you're looking for something to do, that's a good bet. I also think Klamath Lake around Rocky Point can be a really good place to go and kind of, you know, paddle around, look for some early fish. That can be a good bet. I think it comes on a little bit later because the water's as cold as it is. But I think that's a good bet up there as well. Diamond Lake, of course, is always a very good bet when we see the ice off up there. Actually, I haven't even really looked at that, but that happens pretty quickly, and that can be really good fishing up at Diamond Lake. So if you're a Stillwater guy or you want to get more into that, it's a very good time to be doing that now for the next like 6 weeks or so. You know, we really like to talk about the private fishing, private lakes at Sugar Creek Ranch in Northern California. That's an awesome, awesome place to fish, and it's full on right now. And it's an easy place to go, easy social distancing. They manage the numbers of people. It's $150 a day for walk-in, which I think is very reasonable for that fishing. So if you're interested in that at all, please give us a call. That can be very, very good Stillwater fishing as well. It doesn't require a boat. So yeah, Stillwater, have it on your list. Northern California, we talk about a fair amount this time of year. We love fishing down there. If you follow us, you know that. We don't exactly know what to expect. From what I understand now, it's up to each individual county in California to talk about the opening of their trout season. So that's something that we're watching pretty closely. I would take no news as good news that basically they're going to have their trout opener. Of course, we've seen things changing on a dime these days, so let's be aware of that and make sure that is correct. But we're hoping that stuff. We're going to see the general trout opener in Northern California. So that would be the McCloud, Hat Creek. Now, of course, that can be repealed quickly if there's a lot of people together. So we want to be a little bit aware of that. But we should see those fisheries, opening in the last Saturday in April, which I think is either this weekend or next weekend. So we will keep you updated on that. Besides those fisheries, the Pitt River's open all year, Upper Sacramento's open all year, and those can be really good fisheries. Now, the Upper Sacramento, even with, snowpack, there's enough to create some runoff, I think, this year. So we want to be a little bit aware of that, but I think even with the little high water that we might have, it'll fish well through that. Typically the upper sack really comes on after whatever little push of water kind of subsides, and that's typically around that first part of June, late May. So it's hard to know exactly what the timing will be on that this year. I think it'll be a little bit early, but the upper sack is a good bet now, and even with some of the higher flows, I think we'll see that fishing through that will be okay this year. And then, getting into June and July, it should be really good down there. McLeod, I doubt we'll see any kind of, big flow push down there. So I think it'll be pretty much game on from the opener, as it typically is. And that can fish really well early. So we love it down there. And we're happy to talk to you about how to approach that. Pitt River, Hat Creek is an awesome place to go. We typically like to make a trip down there. Fall River. Anyway, happy to talk about any of these fisheries with you in more detail if you want to give us a shout. Lastly, we'll talk about the Klamath Basin a little bit more. Williamson River. Williamson River has a more unique opening. It's that same opening, I believe, is on the Rogue, May 23rd. The Wood River is open at the end of April here. So we kind of keep an eye on those early. The Wood River probably fishes a little better than the Williamson early, but they can both have some pretty good days. We have a great guide, Paul McDonald, that works out there, and it's worth reaching out if you want to talk about guided fishing. If you're fishing out there on your own, then there can be some good fishing to be had, whether you're fishing Agency Lake and kind of cruising up into the Wood, or however you want to approach the Wood. It's tough access, but there's a tiny bit. And then the Williamson, same thing. If you're floating on your own or whatever, it's probably worth checking out. And it can be okay early. It can be kind of hit or miss, but it can be pretty good too. So, so those two fisheries are worth having on your radar, and we're happy to talk to you at more length about, in more detail about them. So. Yeah, those are really cool Southern Oregon rivers as well. All right, folks, that's what we got for you. Thank you so much for sticking with us through this freaking crazy time. We really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting us through this time. We've really are feeling a lot of gratitude toward our customers at this time. So we certainly appreciate it, and we really hope to be doing some fishing in the next few weeks, and we'll keep you tuned into what we're seeing as we move into the best trout fishing of the year in the next couple months. So, so thank you so much. Again, call if you need more detail, and we'll see you out there.